This conference will now be recorded.
All right, folks, so good evening. So I wanted to share my screen with you first off in our recording and just showing you that in my home channel, anatomy videos for AMP1 and 2. So here you'll see that I have the kidney video that's posted that I recorded in the lab. So I did this after hours kind of a thing. The male anatomy and the female anatomy I have also posted, okay? So you'll see here that, yeah, thank you, Evelyn. Yep, you're welcome, and I'm glad to do it, to be honest. So you'll see here that the last 2 weeks have been posted, right? So it's just a matter of now, tonight after I'm done with this lab, by tomorrow I'll have it posted and shared with you all, okay? All right, so we've got that going. Good. Let's look at our PowerPoint. First we're gonna look at these notes right here, okay, folks? So tonight there, what I did when I posted for male and female reproductive system, so I'm going to focus on male reproductive system this evening, okay? Next week we'll focus on female reproductive system, and we'll also have a review. I'll have already posted then a review for you all regarding the final exam. But right now we're going to focus on the reproductive system and in particular male. But in the beginning here, in both these notes I've posted here as far as some general data, okay? And then I'm gonna move this here. And then also at the very end of this note, so I'm gonna focus here first because I think that this is important, and this is on both of the notes also, as far as secondary sex characteristics. So recall that I said to you, and I've said to you that in the endocrine system, that the male reproductive system, testosterone is the masculinizing hormone. I said to you that in the female reproductive system, estrogen is the feminizing hormone. So as far as secondary sex characteristics that are going to be presented and will show forth during puberty, right, will be for both will be what? The appearance of pubic and axillary and facial hair for the male, pubic and axillary hair for the female. You'll see here as far as the enhanced growth of chest hair, deepening of the voice. So the vocal cords, the vocal folds, the true vocal fold will get thicker, will allow for a deeper voice for the male usually. Okay. You'll see here as far as the skin will thicken and become oily for the male. Bones grow, they increase in their density. Skeletal muscles will also increase in size and mass. The boost the basal metabolic rate. So the metabolic rate for the young male in comparison to the for the prepubescent male, different than the pubescent male as far as having an increase in that metabolic rate. You'll see here also the sex drive, the libido for males will then also increase. As far as secondary sex characteristics, we're looking at, again, the appearance of hair, the growth of breasts, and really, and know this also, folks, the maturation of the reproductive organs for both male and female will take place during puberty. Growth of the breasts, the increase of deposition of the fatty tissue and hips in the breasts, as well as the widening of the pelvis. Okay, so we see that these are really what present, and as far as for male and female sex characteristics are concerned, that would be what we would be looking for as far as the description of those secondary sex characteristics presenting at puberty. Okay. Now you will see here as far as the reproductive system, so for both male and female, right? So there are gonads and there are external genitalia, as well as ducts and accessory glands and organs, okay? Because we'll see that for both systems here, that there are, so the gonads would be the organs that produce, you'll see below here, the organs that produce the gametes and the hormones, right? So the gametes are the sex cells, right? And the sex cells, right, will be passing through these different tracks, these different tubes, these different ducts, and we'll see that was the duct system as far as for the male this evening here. You'll also see that there are going to be glands and organs that will secrete fluid that will help to move, right, the gametes from one location to another as far as the male is concerned. And we'll see that also that the secretions also will really help to support fertilization for both male and female, whether they're produced by the male or whether they're produced by the female. Okay, so very important. So the gonads, right? So the gonads, when we're thinking of the gonads, we would think of what? The testes for the male, right? And the ovaries for the female. Okay, so let's look here as far as for the gametes there again. The sex cells, they are the sperm and the ovum. you'll see here as far as the gonads or the testes and the ovaries, which will produce said sperm and ovum, respectively. Okay. And you're also seeing here that hormones are being produced by those said gonads. Okay, so not only just the cells, but the hormones that help to support and enable fertilization to take place and enable for the development and the cycles that are present within the female reproductive system and the ability for the male to produce. Yes, so gonads are, yes, because you would say here, so look over here where it says gonads, right? The organs that produce gametes and hormones. So the gonad for the male is the testes, right? The gonad for the female are the ovaries, and the ovaries produce the ovum as well as estrogen and progesterone. The testes will produce the sperm as well as the androgens, the testosterone and precursors for testosterone hormones. Okay. You'll see here the terms that we use, spermatogenesis or oogenesis, for the production of either the egg, right, the ovum, singular, ova, plural, or and really it's only an ovum that should be released every month, and the ovaries take turns when they do this. But we can have 2 ova released, right? We can have ova released during multiple ova released during ovulation, and this could result in then what? A fraternal twin, right? So fraternal twins, if there is a fertilization that takes place, they're not identical twins, they're fraternal because they're 2 different eggs, right? You'll see here also that the gametes know this, and so whether you take human biology, anatomy, whether you take general biology and look at whether it be plant life, animal life, there are haploid and diploid cells. Okay, these are haploid cells, the sperm and the egg, because when they come together, then they will create a diploid cell, a zygote, right, upon fertilization. But they are haploid in that, what does it say here? The haploid number of chromosomes should be 23. So diploid would be 2 sets of 23 chromosomes. Haploid would be 1 set of 23 chromosomes. So they create a complete cell upon fertilization of 2 pairs of 23 chromosomes considered diploid. But the sperm and the ovum are each haploid. Okay, 23 chromosomes each. And again, that zygote is the cell that is created upon fertilization. Okay. And I'm also going to take some time also next class and just give you a little bit of review, talking you through some STIs, STDs, sexually transmitted infections, also known as for many years sexually transmitted diseases. Okay, most important cause of reproductive disorders, truly, and leading to infertility and such, and leading to issues with the ability to conceive. Okay, so let's see here. So we've done that. All right, very good. So we're looking at here as far as very closely associated with the urinary system. And last class there, we went over the anatomical structures as well as the physiology of the urinary system, and looked in particular at the kidneys and what they do as far as their functioning, filtration of blood and forming urine. Realizing that the urethra is really, so for the male, we're looking at 3 portions of the urethra. It's all one tube, the urethra, but we'll have the prostatic urethra, the membranous urethra, see on the bottom there, and the spongy urethra, aka also known as the penile urethra. Spongy urethra because it's passing through the tissue, the corpus spongiosum tissue. Okay, so the spongy urethra, also known as the penile urethra. All right. So we have here that urine will pass through, as well as so in the prostate gland, you'll see there that there's also an ejaculatory duct, right? That is then going to be putting in the ejaculate into passing through, which would contain the sperm as well as other fluids that we'll talk about in a few minutes that will pass through the urethra. Okay. You'll see here that as we look at structures and ducts in particular, so we'll see that in the male as well as the female reproductive systems, there are tubes present. There are ducts present. You'll see the oviduct, also known as the fallopian tube and such, the uterine tube. These are also AKA is also known as for these tube that will allow for passage of and allow for also fertilization to take place of the ovum, and allow then for implantation for that fertilized egg, that zygote, to then pass into the uterus and allow for implantation in the endometrium. Okay. So, but you'll see here as far as for the male, so we have the epididymis, the ductus deferens, also known as the vas deferens, the ejaculatory duct, urethra, urinary meatus. Okay, that urinary meatus is just the opening. So whether we have the urinary meatus for the male or the female, they're both, it's just the opening, the hole through which the urine will pass through, as well as the ejaculate for the male. So I want you to write here, if you can please, that this is also known as ductus deferens, vas deferens, right? So you see here, yeah, so just make sure that you're keeping in mind. This is really more the proper term that's used, vas deferens, but also known as the ductus deferens, and you should know that too also. You'll see here as far as the epididymis is concerned, and I pointed it out to you in the lab, as far as that structure that was right adjacent to the testes, the testis, right, the one, because you only saw one, you didn't see both of them being presented in the lab. So you have the epididymis, and this is where storage of sperm as well as the maturation of sperm, which takes approximately 20 days, so a little bit less than a month. And you'll see here that this is a crazy number, approximately 20 feet long. If you were to stretch the epididymis out, folks, it's, yeah, agreed, that's really kind of crazy, right? So let's take a look and see in our PowerPoint as far as some images here. So let's first look at this image as a sagittal image, and I'll just discuss with you structures and such, okay? So again, as we're looking at here, so we're going to see, let's start here in the scrotum is the skin sac protecting and holding on to, and really allowing for the regulation of, in conjunction with two muscles in particular that we'll look at in a few minutes, the dartos and the cremaster muscles. They will allow for the testes to have a temperature control that's a little bit cooler than the internal temperature of the body. Okay, and so what goes on, folks, is that as far as spermatogenesis needs a little bit of a lower temperature to optimally produce sperm. But let's look at the epididymis, folks. So here, if we were to uncoil this, and let's take a look and see if we can't, if there's another image here. Yeah, so no. Here we go. So here what we're looking at, folks, is that here is that epididymis, okay? So uncoiled, 20 feet long, that's crazy, right? And you'll see here, folks, that throughout the testis, you'll see here that there are also these seminiferous tubules. And these tubules will allow for then sperm production to take place. And here's within the lumen of this seminiferous tubule, which you can see all throughout the testis here, okay? And so what goes on is that, let's move back for a moment here because I'd like to finish, I'd like to finish this, but just know that, again, very, very long tubes as far as the epididymis is concerned, and as well as the testis full of these seminiferous tubules. So then we have, so the sperm are produced here, they're matured and stored here, right, in the epididymis, and then you'll see this vas deferens, aka the ductus deferens. And now what you're going to see, folks, is that really they're showing you representation of two areas here, right? They're showing you and really know that this is bilateral, so it's on both sides. So here you have, here you have the ejaculatory duct right here, and here you have the seminal vesicle. We have the prostate gland, and we have the Cowper's gland, also known as the bulbourethral gland. All three of these glands, right here, here, and here, right, are all going to contribute to the secretion that, or the ejaculate that the sperm pass through. So here, you'll see that the sperm are entering the ejaculatory duct here, right, in the prostate gland. Here we have that seminal vesicle, the prostate gland, and the Cowper's gland. They're all contributing to the secretions that will pass into that ejaculate and then will pass through the urethra. Okay, so you'll see here that, and what you're not seeing in this image here is really the spermatic cord, which would have, so the spermatic cord is going to have this vas deferens present, as well as blood vessels, as well as nerve being present within this cord that the ductus deferens is passing through. Okay, so there's multiple structures in that spermatic cord, and one of them in particular would be this vas deferens, aka this ductus deferens. Now, what you're also seeing here would be the penis, and so what we have here is there's going to be a prepuce. There's going to be now, so if a patient was had a circumcision, there wouldn't be the prepuce, there wouldn't be the foreskin. Okay, then what you're seeing here is the glans penis. Then we have the tissue here, folks, that is going to be the corpus. Now this is wrong. I don't know why it's spelled wrong, but it is. So it's the corpus cavernosum, the corpus spongiosum. Spongiosum would be the erectile tissue that is going to protect the urethra. So even during erection and ejaculation, the urethra will be patent, will be open to allow for the ejaculate to pass through. And the corpus cavernosum here also does not have any tubes. It's just erectile tissue. All right. And then lastly here's the urinary bladder, folks. Okay, and here we're having the ureter that's bringing urine to the urinary bladder. Okay. And also you're seeing here as far as the sigmoid colon, rectum, anal canal, and the anus. And as we look at this image here, so this image is giving you, so that was a sagittal view, mid-sagittal view. So here you're looking at more of an A to P view, all right? And so that you're seeing that, so that we have bilateral structures as far as you're seeing here the bulbourethral glands, the one prostate gland, and the multiple seminal vesicles, right? 2 seminal vesicles. And here we're having the vas deferens, right? And then so the ejaculatory duct right there, as far as allowing for the ejaculate with the sperm to pass into the urethra, okay? And so also, let's see here, you're looking at the tissue as far as the corpus spongiosum, because here's the spongy urethra, and here we have the corpus cavernosum present. And then again, you're being able to view in this portion of the image here, the seminal vesicles. Here's that epididymis, where we have maturation and storage of the sperm. And here are the ureters that are bringing urine to the urinary bladder. Okay, let's see here. Okay. All right, so let me go back to my notes here. And so let's see. So we've looked at the epididymis. We've talked about the vas deferens. Okay. You'll see here as far as then the vas deferens approximately 1.5 feet long, so 12, 18 inches or so. A strong muscular tube contracts with ejaculation, allowing for the movement of the sperm into the ejaculate. Okay. You'll see here as far as a vasectomy, as far as the actual ligation or cutting of and closing up of the tubes of the vas deferens in order to allow for there not to be any sperm entering into the ejaculate. Okay, so this is something that is done in order to prevent any type of, like I said, sperm entering into the ejaculate, and there needs to be a period of time where the patient would have to wait in order to have unprotected sex to guarantee that there's no sperm in the ejaculate. I mentioned to you the different areas of the urethra as far as the prostatic urethra and where that is, as far as that's just passing through the prostate gland. We'll see that the membranous urethra is only a very small area there as far as the transition from the prostate to the base of the penis for the spongy urethra. Urinary meatus, I mentioned to you that the opening for both male and female as far as at the distal portions of the urethra, also known as the external or urethral orifice. Right? Either terms are descriptive and accurate in describing that opening. You'll see here as far as that spermatic cord I mentioned to you also, and I didn't say this lymphatics also, right? So having all of these different vessels being present within the spermatic cord. The scrotum allows for, like I said, the ability to regulate, protect, hold, and also regulate the temperature of the testes. You'll see here that they prefer a cooler environment, 3 degrees cooler. And know this, folks, right, that again, too, we've seen, even just with this whole COVID situation where we've had to take temperatures and such, not many of us really register at a 98.6. Okay, just know that many of us register a little bit cooler than that as far as our core body temperature. Lower temperatures necessary for sperm production. So we have the dartos and the cremaster muscles. Okay, the dartos muscle will actually help to wrinkle the scrotum. Okay, so the actual sac itself can actually kind of wrinkle upon itself, and this will allow for, and again, smooth muscle contraction. And the cremaster muscle will actually allow to elevate the testes and bring them closer to the body. So how about in the case of when it's very cold outside, the cremaster muscle will help to contract and bring the testes closer to the core of the body, okay? This term here, Crypt Orchidism, okay? So condition in which the testes do not descend into the scrotum. The most important risk for cancer of the testes in young males is that Crypt Orchidism. And let's show you a couple images here. So let's look at this one first, because this one just shows you as far as, and I will try and do what I can to remember to post these two images for you, okay? So you'll see here as far as testicle develops near the kidney about 7 weeks after conception, okay? So very early on, folks, the testy itself will be developing. You'll see here that the testy descends to the top of the groin at about 12 weeks after conception, and then testicle descends into the scrotum at about 4 to 6 weeks before birth, okay? And will descend into the scrotum, that skin pouch. Let's look at. But what can happen, folks, is that there can be undescended testes, and they can. Yeah, understood. Right. Yeah, Michelle. Yep. Yeah, and it's a wise thing to do. Do some people not get it done? Yes. And do some people not develop cancer as a result? Absolutely. But they just say it's a wise thing to do as a preventative if the testes do not descend, or if one of them does not descend. And you'll see here as far as different locations. So you'll see as far as where locations of where these the testes could be. So this would be the normal descent and such. And so this would be just regarding undescended. And this would be as far as ectopic, so in different locations than where it normally should be. And there could be multiple reasons for that, okay? All right, so again, like I said, I'll post both of those images for you all. Now, you'll see here as far as that, each of the testes, right, are divided into approximately 250 lobules, each containing 1 to 4 of these seminiferous tubules, right? So the seminiferous tubules, the image that I showed you before, right here, as far as those seminiferous tubules, right? Now they are where spermatogenesis occurs, the site of sperm production, okay? There are these myoid cells that surround each of the seminiferous tubules. They help to squeeze the sperm and testicular fluids out of the testes. Okay, it's pretty interesting, right? There are these tubules that go to, and then this would be the different terms that we would use to describe the tubes, these ducts that will lead to then the epididymis. Okay, so storage and maturation of the sperm here. Seminiferous tubules, this is where spermatogenesis occurs, and then this is where we have movement of the sperm to the straight tubule, the ret testis, the efferent ductules into the epididymis. Okay, so these are you should know these terms and how they move from space to area, and you'll see here as far as the structures that we're seeing here. The only one that you're not seeing, right, would be the on this image would be the straight tubule, okay? Seminiferous tubule, straight tubule, and you'll see as far as like SE to ST, so that's how you, like, you know, as far as the alphabetically and such, that's how we would go from seminiferous tubule to straight tubule, ret testes, okay? Efferent ductules to the epididymis, and so let's take a look at that there. So you're seeing the ret testes, the ductules, the efferent ductules, and efferent, right? Efferent always deals with, exiting, right? So when we think of as far as the we were looking at the urinary system, right? And we were looking at the arterioles that bring blood to the glomerulus, the knot of capillaries. And we say that the AFF-ERENT, the afferent arteriole, brings blood to the glomerulus. The efferent arteriole allows blood to leave the glomerulus. And this was also known, we were talking about with the lymph nodes, as far as what's bringing to lymph to and what's taking lymph, sorry, because it's lymph nodes filter lymph. It's allowing lymph to exit the lymph node as far as afferent and efferent respectively, okay? So just recall that as far as the efferent ductules to the epididymis, okay? And then to this vas deferens, aka the ductus deferens, muscular, present within the spermatic duct, spermatic cord, and will allow for then contraction to allow for, during ejaculation, for the sperm to exit and enter into the ejaculate and leave the penis upon coitus. Let's see here, right here. Okay. You're seeing here as far as that there are interstitial cells. These interstitial cells, right, are what are present within the testes that actually help to produce the hormones, right? Androgens, these precursors to testosterone, and in response to luteinizing hormone, okay? So we're going to see luteinizing hormone. We're going to see follicle stimulating hormone when we look at the female reproductive system and see their role as far as through the cycles that are taking place, as far as uterine and ovarian cycles. And we're going to see how then, as far as right now, so interstitial cells, right, responding to luteinizing hormone, okay? We'll see as far as Sertoli cells, right? Sertoli cells supplying nutrients and also activated by follicle stimulating hormone. We'll see how luteinizing hormone will be present and will spike as far as its concentration in order to allow for ovulation to occur for females. We'll see as far as the FSH really in the early portion of the ovarian cycle in order to allow for the follicles to help to bring about a maturation of the ovum in order just prior to ovulation, the release of the ovum. Okay, so here we have luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, and what's going on as far as its role present, their role present within the male anatomy. Okay, the blood testis barrier. This is quite interesting. So, recall when we talked about the blood-brain barrier as far as in the astrocytes and such, and so looking at as far as what's taking place, the protection of the brain from the direct interaction with blood, as far as with possible passage of microbes and different infections and such. So now we're going to look at here as far as the blood testis barrier. Know that the sperm can actually initiate an actual immune response. Okay, so we're going to see here that prevents the activation of the immune system to the sperm. Okay, so let's look here and see. Formed by the Sertoli cells, isolates the further developed stages of the germ cells from the blood. So we're talking about the sperm. The blood testis barrier is the physical barrier between the vasculature and the seminiferous tubules, which do what? They produce the sperm, spermatogenesis. The blood testis barrier is important because sperm and developing cells produce surface antigens that are recognized as foreign by the immune system. So it prevents the activation of the immune system, allowing for this blood testis barrier here. Quite interesting, right? So the antigens present on the sperm can cause this type of reaction, okay? You'll see here as far as the hypothalamus releases GnRH, so this gonadotropin releasing hormone really helps to allow for spermatogenesis, allows for hormone production and such. Very important as far as, remember that we talked about how the hypothalamus is really the master controller, because it's a portion of the brain, very deep within, and it's the master controller of the master gland and really the endocrine system, okay, as well as all very major important functions within the human body, as well as like the thermostat for the body, hypothalamus. Okay? So you'll see here, without GnRH, without the gonadotropins that are produced as a result of that GnRH being released, testes will atrophy, sperm and testosterone production ceases. Okay, so really affects the production of the gonadotropins, and which will then lead to the production of and release of the hormones in order for the reproductive system to be vital. You'll see here as far as the stages of spermatozoa development, okay? So do I want you to know all of this other than you should know the spermatogonia is where we start, then we end up with the mature spermatid, okay? Spermatogonia is where we begin, spermatid, the mature spermatid is where we end. And let's look here as far as the anatomy of the sperm. Very simple and basic, and yet very important. You'll see here as far as the acrosome and the cap here, this is going to contain an enzyme that will allow for then the penetration of the ovum upon fertilization. You'll see here that there's the head, the neck, the middle piece also known as the body, containing the mitochondria, because how is this structure, how is this cell, how is it going to be moving but as a result of this tail, right? This flagellum. It's the only known flagellum as far as human anatomy is concerned. But recall in microbiology, folks, you know, there are many microorganisms that have cilia and flagella that allow for them to move and such. But here we have one flagellum. Know that there can be sperm that are really not have, as a result of issues with, repeat for the acrosome. So the acrosome will contain an enzyme and allow for it to penetrate upon ovulation, upon fertilization of the ovum. That enzyme present in the acrosome will allow for it to penetrate it, will allow for the sperm to penetrate the egg, okay? So that's what's present. There's an enzyme present within. So yeah, so as far as issues with meiosis, right? So meiosis, meiotic division and such, the production of the sperm, there can be issues where there are malformed type of sperm. So can sperm have two heads? Can they have two tails? Yeah, it absolutely can. Yep, so to just realize that that can happen, and those are really non-viable type sperm. They're not going to be able to move properly, and they're not going to reach the egg in order to allow for fertilization to take place. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, so as far as so copulation is another term, coitus is another term for having relations, right? And so the penis, the male copulatory organ, having the prepuce, that's the foreskin, the glans penis, that would be the head of the penis, and the shaft. We understand what that is. So the erectile tissue, two types, and I put it here, I just changed the notes a little bit here, because really it's the proper term, but this is also another very common term used for it. But the corpus cavernosum, this is two pair of these erectile tissue, and this would be superior to the corpus spongiosum, which is one which has the urethra, and really it keeps that urethra open. It keeps it patent, we would say. It keeps it open during the erection and such, okay? So this is the erectile tissue, fills very vascular, fills with blood, producing the erection, okay? As far as the male perineum is concerned, right? So this area would be from the pubic symphysis, and so you can palpate your pubic symphysis. It's anterior and just above your reproductive organs, and you'll see here as far as your external reproductive organs, and you'll see that the coccyx would be your tailbone, and the ischial tuberosity. So as you're sitting here right now, if you were to place your hand under one of your thighs and in the buttock region, you would palpate your ischial tuberosity, right? So you have here this region where we call the male perineum, and we'll look at the female perineum next class there, but that would be the area that's kind of like, you know, you're looking at this area kind of like this, that has the borders of the pubic symphysis, the coccyx, and then the ischial tuberosities, creating that area there. So when we talk about the semen, know that this is the ejaculate. This is the secretions that are going to really help propel as well as nourish the sperm and allow for upon. I apologize, I've got an itchy nose. Excuse me one moment, please. Sorry, guys. All right, so the ejaculate is going to help to propel and lubricate the urethra and really allow for the sperm to be viable to reach the ovum in order to allow for fertilization to occur. So you see here between 2 and 5 milliliters of semen is present the ejaculate containing 20 to 150 million sperm, right, per milliliter. That's an awful lot of cells there that will try to reach the ovum upon coitus and allow for fertilization to occur. You know, having all these cells being released and produced, very important in order to allow to increase the odds for fertilization to occur. Very important as far as in the propagation of the species and such, right? You'll know that men that sit for long periods of time, truck drivers, other types of situations in jobs that really create more of a warm environment in the area of the scrotum and such, can really reduce the amount of sperm production, the amount of sperm being produced, okay? As well as genetics can play a role in this also. Okay? These seminal vesicles, so these are paired vesicles that will secrete a fluid during ejaculation, so approximately 70% of the semen. So primarily those seminal vesicles are what are producing the primary portion of the ejaculate. You'll see contains fructose, prostaglandins, and a basic solution. So meaning that it's not acidic, right? It's more of a basic solution, because what's it going to do? It's going to help to counteract the female's acidic environment in the vagina. Okay, so that's very important. You'll see here the prostaglandins allow for, how cool is this? They cause the female reproductive organs to undergo smooth muscle contractions, which in turn allow for movement of the sperm deeper within the reproductive anatomy, and allowing also the sperm, the fructose will provide food in order to allow for the production of ATP by those mitochondria present within the body of the sperm. The ejaculatory duct, this is just the duct of the seminal gland, and the vas deferens, that they will join together and allow for then sperm and the ejaculate to combine in order to allow for that vehicle to move through the urethra in order to exit from the male body. You'll see here as far as the prostate gland also will contribute to and produce more of an alkaline solution. Okay, so we have the seminal vesicles paired. We have the prostate gland, one, and it's not prostrate, right? Prostrate, that's a position. Prostate, that's the gland. And then we have here the Cowper's glands, which will also contribute. They're paired, and they'll contribute to the ejaculate. You'll see here as far as the prostate gland, so again, that alkaline solution counteracts the acidic environment of the female reproductive system within the vagina. We'll have the Cowper's gland. This can really release a pre-ejaculate that can help to lubricate the head of the penis. And also, again, you'll see here where I've highlighted, neutralize any traces of the urine that's going to be exiting the male body, which would be usually more along the lines of a little bit acidic. You're seeing here as far as parasympathetic and sympathetic control of what takes place in the male anatomy. So parasympathetics are involved for the erection, sympathetic control regarding the ejaculation and such. Okay. Let's see here, testosterone contributes to the male sexual behavior and spermatogenesis, stimulates the male pattern of development and protein synthesis present, and really allows for the masculinization of the male, as well as the maturation of the reproductive organs present within. Now you'll see here 3 steps of spermatogenesis. Begins at puberty, right? So this is really when the male is able to be reproduce. And so we would say between 64 and 72 days, this would occur. Okay, as far as mitosis of the spermatogonia. So here we have mitosis, and then we have meiosis in order to actually produce these haploid cells. Again, they have one set of 23 chromosomes. Okay, you'll see here that these are 2 situations that can occur as far as, so prostate cancer, second most common cause of cancer death in males. I mentioned to you, and let me just show you this image again. I mentioned to some, but not to all. So you'll see here as far as this image is concerned, right? So in addition to having blood tests and done and looking at the levels of particular specific types of antigens present within the blood, that and looking at the numbers that we can tell as far as if there's issues with the prostate gland, we monitor those, but also a digital exam can be performed. And so the clinician can actually place a finger within the anus through the anal canal into the rectum, and you'll see here's the prostate gland. So there can be palpation through the wall of the rectum of the prostate gland. Okay, so it's a little weird, right? But this is just how anatomically can be done. And also then different types of biopsies can also be done through this way. Okay, know that also can take place through the wall of the rectum. Okay. So there is a condition called benign prostatic hyperplasia or hypertrophy, meaning that there's an yes, Norma, that's correct. So they're feeling for lumps and bumps and little tiny nodules and such that could be issues. Now know that really most oftentimes prostate cancer and issues with the prostate are very, very slow moving. You're welcome. But they can occur, things can happen on a quicker basis. And so this is why observation and testing and such can be done in order to confirm what's going on as far as whether there's cancer present or if it's just this BPH. So many times we'll call it BPH, okay? Age-related, as the patient gets older, know that really also males, if we live long enough, we're going to have some type of issue with our prostate gland, like in the 90 percentile group. Okay, 90% of males, if they live past 80 and such, are going to definitely have issues with their prostate gland. Yeah, indeed, it's pretty remarkable. The prostate gland can distort the urethra. Well, how is that possible? Well, here's the prostate gland, here's the urethra, the prostatic urethra. Again, prostatic urethra right here, here's the prostate gland. So absolutely, if this gets larger, if the prostate gland gets larger, this can absolutely affect what goes on as far as the ability to void the urine out of the male reproductive anatomy. Let's see here. So males can experience nocturia. So this is waking up at night, having to void, okay, having to urinate. So for nocturia, that's correct. Yes. So it's having to urinate at night. Can affect both genders. That's correct. It's just that you're not going to have an issue with your prostate gland because you don't have one. But yes, indeed. But thank you for that. Yeah, indeed, that you're correct. That there can be other issues as far as for in the female anatomy that can cause that. All right, folks. So that's it. It's very good, Norma. Thank you for that input. I appreciate that. So I went over the sex characteristics, right, for male and female. You need to know those. You need to know as far as the gametes and gonads are concerned, and then you need to know regarding the specifics for the male anatomy. So I've really, over the years, I've tweaked and provided this this note packet for each of my students for male and female anatomy because I feel it's very important to be able to have it just concise for you all, and that you're able to know what's expected of you as far as for my exam. Know that the reproductive system is not going to be on test number 4, and also the urinary system is not going to be on test number 4. Okay, so it's only going to be on I think it's the digestive system and the respiratory system and digestive system will be on test number 4. Okay, so let's stop the recording.